All right, guys, welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, as always, presented by our good friends over at ScentLock. Guys, ScentLock just released some new early season hot weather gear, and I would highly encourage you to go check it out because good gear does not have to just be for the late season. You got to have good gear when you're hunting in the heat as well. So go check out ScentLock's new early season gear. Guys, I'm excited about today's episode, an episode I've wanted to do for a while now. I've got Eric Clark on, aka the Okayest Hunter, a guy who has no shame in what he shoots and encourages you to do the same. We talk about the Okayest Hunter mindset and where that all stems from. We also tell some of our stupid mess ups, aka our okayest moments, where we have messed up, forgotten things, done stupid stuff, and blown deer. It's a fun episode, guys. I would highly encourage you to stay tuned in right here because, as I allude to in the episode, whether you are a giant big buck killer or you're on your way to that point, there is something to be inspired from with this episode. Whether you are a big buck killer and you're the one that's doing the buck shaming, or whether you're a big buck killer who encourages people to shoot what makes them happy, there's encouragement to be found in this episode. So stay right here tuned in and enjoy the conversation.
Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
Guys, I don't need to tell you about the Blazer Vane. You're probably familiar with the Blazer Vane, and you're probably familiar with boning. Boning has been around forever. It's a name you can trust. They sell products you can trust. They have everything that you need to build your own arrows. All of the jigs to fletch your own arrows, all of the vanes, all of the wraps, numerous types of vanes and wraps to build any kind of configuration you want. They also have some really cool Fredbear branded products with their Fredbear camo wraps and their Fredbear flannel wraps. Something that's really cool about that Fredbear flannel, that's actually a photo that was taken of one of Fredbear's flannel famous shirts, you know, the red and gray and black that he always wore. That's actually a photo taken of his personal shirt and put on a wrap. It looks really cool, especially on some traditional arrows. But my very favorite configuration, and this is coming from an arrow junkie that's tried out all different kind of vanes and all different kind of configurations, I have found that this configuration stabilizes pretty much every arrow. It's whisper quiet. They fly fantastic. The 3-inch Bronco vane in a 4-fletch absolutely flies like a dart, whether you're shooting mechanicals or big fixed. This is going to be a fletching configuration that will work. Again, whisper quiet, long range accuracy. I love this configuration. This is on every single one of my compound arrows. They just work. Guys, I would highly encourage you to check out boning, not just for the Blazer vane, but for the Heat vane, for the Broncos, for the X vanes. Everything that you need to build your own arrows is right there on Boning's website. They've been around for ages, and I promise you, if you order from them, you're going to get products that you can trust. All right, Eric. So I'm excited to dive into this because I want to unpack the Okayest Hunter and everything that you guys do. So where did the Okayest Hunter come from? Like, what was the inspiration behind this?
Gosh, I mean, I guess I classify myself, or I technically fall into the definition of an adult onset hunter. And as a result, the first deer I ever got with my bow it was a doe fawn. And it was like a really exciting hunt. I was with my dad. We were on this conservancy property that we got draw access for. And it was actually, you had to shoot a doe before it was earn a buck, even though that's not the rules of the state of Wisconsin. It applied for that property because that's how they wanted to manage that land. So sure enough, doe came by. I was on the ground. She was a little uphill of me, about 15 yards, and drew back from behind a tree, peeked around, let it rip, hard shot, pass through, dead deer, within like 15 yards. And it was, I didn't realize it was a doe fawn until I walked up on it, just because of the excitement, the opportunity that arose, the fact that she's a little bit uphill for me. And so the drag out was great. It was super, super easy. I didn't have to, it's a very light deer. And, posted it to social media, like first bow deer I ever got. And, you know, people are like, I can't believe you'd post this to social media. Like, why would you post that? Aren't they supposed to have antlers? You know, what are you thinking? You're a grown man. My dog is bigger than that. I'm like, man, I went from like super high and excited to super low. And it was the community itself that was causing that harm. And I'm like, man, no one outside the deer hunting community understands anything. So they're like, congratulations on a deer. Like, they didn't even know. You don't understand at all. So then, that kind of planted the seed. And I didn't know what to call whatever I was going to do, but I wanted to do something. And as I started kind of paying attention to it, I noticed like kids were getting deer shamed in different Facebook groups. And then like youth, where youth get to go hunting for like a youth only hunt with their guns ahead of the boat or ahead of the gun season. Like, people bash on kids for shooting their bucks. I'm like, man, this is silly. You're grown men. Like, come on. Just be happy for one another. It's my tag. It's my hunt. Like, I bought this. I should be able to shoot what I want. And you don't have any context. Like, I might look like a grown man because I am, but I felt like a 12-year-old boy when I shot that thing. It was super exciting. My dad was there. It was a big deal. So I think I was like, I don't know, 31 or 32. I was right. It would have been like 2017, the year we had my daughter, because it was the first year I put on the top of my SUV and drove it home. And I was like, my daughter was just born in September, our first kid out of 3 now. And I was like, I finally got a deer with my bow. Like, this is great. And then I had that shaming stuff happen. So that was kind of the seed that got planted. Somewhere along the way, I had a bunch of name ideas. I bought OkayestHunter.com, sat on it for 2 years, found a buddy and that I met through podcasting in the local community here, got coffee with him and pitched him the idea. I'm like, I'm too busy to do this on my own. I would love your help if you want in. He understood the mission like immediately. And so like, it was, I think, August of 2019, we soft launched everything. And then June of 2020, we codified everything and, kicked off the business officially. So.
Well, first off, man, I just want to say kudos to you. Like, I think more people in the outdoor industry need to take that stance of, it's your tag, you bought it, do what you want with it. Because, man, I grew up in the South. I grew up in Southern Arkansas. And, when you got back from opening weekend of deer camp, it wasn't how big was it or how many points did it have. It was, did you kill one or not? And, you got to say, yeah, I shot one. And your buddies would say, I didn't get one this year. And then the other buddy would say, yeah, I got one too. And then you started telling stories, and it wasn't till far into the episode or far into the story where people were talking, well, was it a buck or a doe? How many points did it have? How big was it? Because it just wasn't part of the equation, man. And, I remember the first time that I really truly got shamed for a deer I shot. And it was when I had moved to Kansas and kind of, started being a little more influencer-ish, if you will. And then I go back to Southern Arkansas, South Arkansas, where deer weigh 100 pounds. And I shoot this deer and I post it, and there's so many negative comments. And I'm like, well, first off, dude, this is a Southern Arkansas deer. Like, you have to understand the major difference between the deer I normally kill and the one I just shot, because this is how big they get down there. I'm sorry. And I was just like, man, but who are you to tell me how wrong I am for this? Like, it's not your tag. They're not even your deer. Like, I understand if I'm on your property, you can tell me what to shoot, but they're not on your property and it's not your tag. So why do you care what I shoot, man? And so kudos to you guys. I wish more people would take that stance.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the fact that other people feel the need to impart their, like, what they would do. It's like, well, but I'm not you. I'm not where you live. I'm not doing what you do. I'm doing what I do. Like, how would you like if I told you what to do? That's why I say it's like, it's my tag. Like, I'll use it how I want. If you want to buy my tag, then you can have a say. But like, why do you care so much? And I think people do care and they're passionate about hunting. And so they may be coming from their own lens of life, like where they really value QDMA or they really value growing big bucks. But it's like, that's not the only thing. It's the experience. It's the meat. It's the camaraderie. It's connecting with nature and God. It's like, it's all of those things. It's not just the one thing. There's also healthy deer management. That's taking into account like CWD and EHD and all that stuff. Like, everywhere is different. And so the internet has been this thing that's opened up the the borders around each state. And so someone sees something in Kansas that they don't understand or have the context around in Arkansas, and they assume that deer looks small because I'm from here and that's not what I would shoot. Well, again, have some context and awareness around that. So I think some of it comes from a good place, honestly. I think hunters are passionate, visceral people. We care about this stuff. So if we see someone doing something different than us, sometimes it's perceived to be, inherently bad. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means someone's doing something different. As long as it's legal and ethical, or as ethical as possible, then there should be no reason to shame people. So, negativity is louder than positivity. I use this example. I was at a call center in college, and we're talking like thousands of calls I took, thousands of calls, and for a cell phone company. And one call out of all of them, out of my like 2 years being there, was like, I'm just calling to say you guys are doing a great job. And I was like, what? But like, do I need to fix something? Are you complaining? Like, what's the problem here? Do you need me to pull up your account? Like, should I review your bill? No, I'm just calling to say you get a good job. I'm like, well, that never happens. Like, no one does that. Like the negativity is what stands out. So by and large, the hunting community is overly positive. Communities are strong. Everything's great. But then you get these keyboard cowboys in these pockets of communities that say things like, why would you post that? Or, you should have let it grow. It's like that stuff, because it's loud, those are the things that we hang on to that will bring us down. It's like a very heavy boat anchor that suddenly gets tied to your foot. And like, even though you're having a great day at the beach, suddenly you just sunk to the bottom and you're really, disheartened by it. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons for human beings to act that way. I've written some articles about, is there too much ego in hunting? How do we, maybe you don't always have to have an opinion. Like if you don't agree with what someone else is doing, maybe just don't say anything. You don't have to impart your opinion. You could just keep scrolling and not get bothered by it. So I pull a lot of inspiration from Stoic philosophy and the likes of Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus and all these like people from like thousands of years ago. And that helps kind of like level set me and help us lead by example, because I don't want to fight fire with this stuff.
Now I know what my answer to this would be. So I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying you're wrong by any means, but I do want to dive into this. So what do you say to the person? And I don't know if you've ever got this question before, but what do you say to the person that takes Okayest Hunter as promotion of shooting small deer? And they say, but yeah, what about conservation? What about conserving deer herds and letting deer grow? What do you say to those people?
Yeah, I say like we're not necessarily promoting. I mean, our antler logo, like the tiny little logo, that's on the hat or whatever. It's a representation of. I believe in doing things different, not better. So when I look around in the hunting industry, all the logos are like really gnarly, awesome racks. By and large, are really cool. And there was not one company represented with a small antler, and that told me some things, right? That kind of affirmed what I believe to be true about like how we're going to market with our messaging. It's a way to get attention and really call like out to what we're standing for. So some people have been like, "Oh, you're promoting the shooting a small deer or what have you." That's not inherently bad. In the CWD area, those are the deer that are breeding. The young bucks at the bars chasing females, like those are the ones breeding. The old married guy, he's not breeding anymore, right? Like he's settled down.
80%
the old buck
of your
isn't the one
does are
spreading
bred by 2.5 and younger.
Yeah. So if we're in a CWD area, it would make more sense when I talk about healthy deer management to shoot the young ones, because they're the ones causing half the problem. Now, that's not the only argument or response to it. It's also like some people then mistake it and say like, oh, so I shouldn't shoot big deer? No, you should shoot whatever makes you happy. Everyone's at a different place in their hunter journey, as we would call it, right? Everyone's at different stages. I think there's like 5 stages of the hunter's journey. Like I'm trying to remember what they are. The shooting stage where you start out and you just want to, shoot everything, you get a slingshot, you start shooting birds, you get a BB gun, squirrels and 22 and then you get in a deer and you're shooting everything, you're tagging out. You're really trying to just like get comfortable and confident. Then you go to limiting out stage, trophy stage, method. Maybe now you're going to switch to like a trad bow, sportsman stage. I got an old uncle that he'll take his camera out in the woods more than his bow these days because he just appreciates nature. He's been through all those stages. And you don't necessarily go through the stages in, perfect priority in order that I called it out. You might be at one stage at a different time. So like we had Jake Bush on our podcast last night. He's definitely in the trophy and method stage. And that's fine. We're not hating on or shaming those folks either. But everyone's at a different journey. So if someone's shooting small bucks, they very, very well might be at that beginner stage. And then the whole, like, you're a grown man, why would you do that? Well, there's a lot of people coming into hunting that have never hunted before that, in way of COVID, they realized, grocery stores are shutting down. Maybe I should think about sourcing my own food. I'm going to go pick up a bow. I'm going to go to the archery shop. I'm going to start hunting. Like, I've talked to at least 5 people that have gone down that path for that reason, that, are learning how to do this stuff, and they're 35, 40 years old. So the first year they get, damn right, it's a trophy. That's a lot. So then again in the stream of social media, post it, they're happy, they're proud. Boom, someone shames them. Why would you shoot that spike? You're 40 years old. That's for kids. But the other point I'll make is, guess who's watching? Children are on social media.
Kids.
They're on YouTube. They're on TikTok. They're on Instagram. So when a kid sees that deer's for a kid, I have specific examples where kids have told us, I have not shot a deer because I passed up on all the deer I've ever seen because it wasn't a 150 or it wasn't a 180. We were at the Iowa Deer Classic and kids are like, I passed on this, I passed on that, I passed on this. And thanks to you guys, I now feel like it's okay and acceptable for me to shoot a basket rack 6 because I prefer that I would need to get the experience. I need to get some reps under my belt. I need to, like, you can't just walk into the gym at $150 and expect you're going to bench press 200 pounds. You got to build some muscle mass. You got to do some reps. You can't go in at 400 pounds and expect you're going to be 180 tomorrow. You got to run on the treadmill for a couple of years, probably. Like, you need to actually practice and have some exposure and experience, draw back, let some arrows fly and do your thing. So, I think the hunting industry, with the old TV stuff, those folks couldn't post failures because it was shown to a mass market of consumers. And, like, you don't want to show people maiming deers or animals. That's a bad look. So then those things never got aired out ever. So all you ever saw were the highlight reels and the success and the huge deer. So then you have a whole generation of people believing that that's the only deer worth shooting. Therefore, they're not making any memories, gaining any experience. So, are we promoting shoot small deer? We're promoting shoot the deer that makes you happy. If that's what got your pee hot, got your heart pumping, made you feel like a kid on Christmas, that's the deer you should shoot. And then, by the way, don't say it wasn't the biggest buck, but if you shot it, it was, and respect the animal and own it. And it's fine.
Yeah.
And so we're seeing more of that. So I don't know, we started our Instagram in 2019 and into June of 2020. The number of people sending us DMs of the deer that never saw the light of day on social media that they were proud of was, like, more than I could count, and something that I did not anticipate to happen, because they were too afraid to post them to social because they would get shamed, but they were really proud of it. And I was like, hey, this is the last time I ever had my grandpa last year. So because he was with me, this is the deer we took. I wouldn't normally shoot this deer, but man, what a great memory. And I'm like, so that's just sitting. It's good that you should have that memory, but then there's this fear of posting. So just a really fascinating thing that kind of is evolving and taking place here in the advent, by and large, of social. Like, people weren't trash talking each other at, rest stops when they're registration stations. Maybe they get back in the car and they say they're trash to their buddy, but they wouldn't do it to someone's face. But behind a keyboard,
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, people grow some big cojones,
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is that you're not promoting the shooting of small animals, but shoot what makes you happy. And, I like to practice conservation and conserving a deer herd. So, I don't want to shoot here in Kansas. I want to wait till they're 5.5, 6.5 years old. However, if my kid comes out and hunts with me and a 2.5-year-old Forky comes in, or a 2.5 basket 6, or you name it, comes in, and my son says, Dad, let me put an arrow in it, I'm going to say, by all means, son, go ahead. Because shooting that one deer does not bad conservation make. Just as shooting one coyote doesn't help your deer herd, just as shooting one big buck doesn't help your deer herd, just because shooting one management buck doesn't help your deer herd. If my son chooses to shoot one small 2.5-year-old deer, it's not going to make a massive difference. Now, was that deer going to blow up to be a massive 180? Possibly, but that's okay.
Could he get hit by a car in the rut tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no guarantee that deer is going to make it anyways. Like, come on,
Yeah, and so that would be my answer, is that, my dad never one time did a deer step out. My dad said, son, you can't shoot that deer. If I wanted to shoot it, he let me shoot it. Now, all the while I was watching him say, well, son, I'm going to pass on this deer because, we want to let him get a little bigger. We want to let him grow, get older, and get more mature. And so as I grew and as I got more mature as an outdoorsman, I looked at my dad and I thought, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe I shouldn't be shooting every forky that walks by. Maybe I should let him grow up. Maybe I should let him get bigger and more mature. And so you're absolutely right, man. There's 100%. There's stages in life that you need to go through as a hunter. But I think, just like you said, just as the kids are watching, it's the more mature hunter's job to show the kids, shoot whatever makes you happy, shoot whatever is going to fulfill you. But as you grow as a hunter, let's try to grow, and set an example for them. So I think you're absolutely right, man. Guys, when it comes to hunting and being outdoors, I believe there's one product that I use more than anything. That's not my bow. That's not my boots. It's not my anything else other than a binocular harness. If I am outside doing anything outdoors, I've got a binocular harness on. Whether I'm shooting, whether I'm hanging tree stands, whether I'm out hiking, it doesn't matter. If I'm outdoors doing just about anything, I've always got my binocular harness. Alaskan Guide Creations does it and does it very, very well. I've been using these now for about 8 years, and I absolutely love them. The new system with all the magnets are really good, really accessible, very customizable. Guys, if you're in the market for a new binocular harness, I would highly, highly, highly encourage you to check out Alaskan Guide Creations because they are phenomenal. So what do you say to the guy who logs on and watches you and says, dude, what are you talking about? You have a big old deer right above your head.
Yeah, that was my hunt, my tag. And you can luck into some deer, and I'm building some skill sets over time and it's compounding and maybe I'm getting a little bit better, but that's my journey. And what's funny about the deer behind me, what people might not realize, and we have it documented on we started I don't want to call it a TV show per se, because it's only on Carbon TV and YouTube, but I mean, that's kind of the mantra of it. It's meant to be like a show, much like The Office, but for deer hunting. So like, again, different, not better. And what you'll see on that episodic is one of the episodes is I draw back on a 6-pointer and let it rip. My bow peep sight had like the rubber tubing snapped at full draw. It was a 15-yard shot. Yeah, the fact that that's when it happened is just my luck. Like, go figure. So I missed that deer, but I worked like pretty hard to identify like where a buck is bedding, tracking back buck sign, a crowded land, like a crowded spot on public land local to me, that was hit pretty hard. It just opened up. So in my mind, I'm like, man, this is public land. This is a bow. I'm on the ground. I got a videographer with me. Like, this is really cool that we're doing this together. My predictions kind of came true. Buck came through right where I wanted it to. I was like, man, I'm like really proud of this situation. So I let the arrow rip and I miss. So that being said, if I would have got the deer, I wouldn't have gotten this one, but I would have been just as happy with that one as I am with this one. Like, it just happened that I got lucky and got this guy peak rut, like chasing another buck off that was trying to breed a doe. So, and I did, believe me, I have all my okayest moments that we call. Anytime you drop your release, you get lost, you get turned around, stuff happens. Those are what we call okayest moments. So even if you're like the best hunter in the world, I guarantee you've had some failures that those are the best teachers that you've learned the hard way that have helped make you better. And if you think you know it all, then you should just hang up your bow or your gun and call it a day, because you should never stop learning as a hunter. Like, you should always stay curious and continue to learn and, keep your mind open for stuff. And so for me, getting this buck was a great learning experience, because on the way to that tree, like it took me a very long time. I was very loud getting up. Like, it was just a total, crap show. And, but it all worked out. It was obviously a huge success. So to those folks that say like, you got deer on your wall. Yeah, man, like of course I want a deer on my wall. Like, I'm excited to decorate my house with these memories. My best buddy was with me for both the deer I have on my wall. And that means something to me. He's, he was the best man at my wedding. Like, there's some weight to all this stuff. My dad came to track this deer with me. Like, we both plunked into a freezing cold river on November 12th. Like, it was so fun. Like, the memories that live inside of this mount are what are important to me. And so every time I see it, I'm literally reminded of that stuff. Like, I'm very proud of the memories.
Well,
So,
and
yeah.
my response would just be, just because I'm okay with shooting small deer doesn't mean if a big deer walks by, I'm going to say, I'm waiting for a small one. Like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah. No, I'm the Okayest Hunter. I only shoot the little ones. No,
I
like I
only
shoot the
shoot
ones that make me happy,
Forkies.
man. Like, yeah. No, and like
My
the fact that I carry that title to some degree, it's funny that if I got that one, it'd totally be permissible. Like, of course, that guy shot the small buck. That's what he's about. I'm about making memories, man. That's about it for me.
yeah, my dad's big statement to me is always like, dude, when are you going to shoot a big deer? And I'll say, well, when they come out before the small ones do, probably. That's when I'll shoot a big one. But it seems like the small ones always come
That's
out
funny.
first, and I always shoot the small ones. So
Yeah,
no, I'll
yeah,
tell
and then
you.
that's the next day you'll see the big one.
I'll tell you my here's how my brain works. I pass a lot of deer until like November 28th. And then I start getting a little anxious and I'm like, man, I need to start killing stuff. And so then I just start shooting. Like December 1st, I'm just letting arrows fly. And there's been so many times where I shoot a deer and my dad's like, or one of my friends is like, dude, you've sent me videos and pictures of deer way bigger than that, at 16 yards or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't tired yet. Like I wasn't like over the deer season yet. I was still in there to wait for big ones. And so I've just decided, I'm like, from now on, man, I'm gonna shoot the big ones that come in like November, 1st of November. That way I don't have to get to that point.
Yeah, the longer the season, I mean, it's a running joke, right? The longer the season goes, the more, I would say desperate, the more trigger happy you're getting. And
100%.
there's like, we post a lot of memes and GIFs or whatever you want to call them. And there's the one with Billy Madison where he gets the dodgeball. He's like, now you're all in big trouble. And I'm like, man, that is the gun opener. Like, if I have not gotten you with my bow yet, now you're in trouble because now I'm going to shoot you. I've had, the number of deer I've had in gun range bow hunting is just stupid because I'm like, man, if I had my rifle, I'd have so many more deer.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't have my phone or like I would have been paying attention better. There's all these goofy things, of course, but yeah, like I missed not this past season, but 2021, I missed a 140-inch deer. I didn't miss it. I missed an opportunity to miss it or to shoot it. It just wasn't fully ready for when he showed up. And by the time he showed up, it was too late. And I couldn't even draw back on him before he got the heck out of there. But it would have been a 10-yard shot from the ground. It was that memory will replay in my mind forever. It's like the ones that got away probably are just as impressionable as the ones that you got.
But like you said, it's those times like you learn more than anything. And like one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned, like while deer hunting, and just, you're an idiot. What were you thinking? I get done with a rattle sequence, and I was probably 21, and that was right about because when I grew up, man, my dad was just like the sit down, be still, be quiet hunter. Like, let's not add any noise to the mix. Let's not add any. It's like I didn't grow up calling it all. And so when I got out and like started getting my own leases and started doing things my way, I started calling. And so like I was pretty new to this idea of making noise in the woods. And so I finished a rattle sequence and I put my rattle bag down, and I just start scrolling my phone, playing a game or whatever I do on my phone. Like literally right after the rattle sequence. Well, little did I know I had rattled in a giant. And when I mean giant, I'm talking 165, 170 probably. And so I'm just playing a game on my phone, and I peek up, and he's sitting right here at like 17 yards. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And my bow is right behind my head, like on a hook. And so I'm like, he's looking up in my direction. So I'm like, I can't get my bow down.
You knew where this time.
And so finally,
yeah.
He turns his head just enough, like where I think I can get away with it. And so I try to grab my bow, and dude bolts. And I'm like, what were you thinking? You're an idiot. And so now, like, anytime I'm hunting with a buddy or something, and I like, I'll rattle for him or something, like, have your bow ready, like release on the D loop ready. And they're like, why? We'll see him coming in. I'm like, just be ready, please, because I've done this before. I've messed up here before. And so, that was one of the biggest lessons I ever learned.
Yep.
And I had so many people be like, why did you have a deer that big at 17 yards and didn't shoot it? And I'm like, I was on my phone.
Stuff happens. Yeah, I remember Greg Tubbs, our co-host on our podcast, had texted me some article about hunting while I'm hunting on my all-day rut sit, like I'd taken off work for. So I should have been pot committed to like hunting and not being on my phone. But Greg texts me, I'm reading this article, and then the buck comes out. I'm like, oh no, I'm not ready. And it was like, it was my fault, not his, of course. But I was like, man, the timing of that couldn't have been any worse, you know. But everything happens or doesn't happen for a reason, so maybe it was fine. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, you guys need to change your name from Okayest Hunter because y'all had such a great season. And I'm like, yeah, we had our Okayest moments. Like, go watch the show. You'll see all the goofy shenanigans that go on. Like, believe me, it wasn't all candy bars and lollipops. So,
just a couple years ago, it was early season, and I was hunting a few hundred yards from my brother-in-law, and a doe comes in, and we had planned to kill some does, just thin some does out, and the doe comes in, and I get like 7 inches into my draw cycle, maybe, and my release breaks. Like the release broke in my hand. And so the arrow comes off the bow and like just lobs and sticks right in front of the deer's face. And she just stands there looking at the arrow.
Yeah.
Wow. And like my brother-in-law's already texting me because he heard me shoot. Well, what he thought was, all he heard was a bow go off. And so he texted me and he says, "Did you get her?" And I just texted back and said, "Not quite."
Not quite.
But she stayed.
Fell a little short.
She stayed right there. But I didn't have a release.
Well, because
my release just broke.
Get me now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So she finally works out, moves on, and I climb down the tree as quick as I can, and I sprint across the field to my truck, grab my other release, sprint back across the field, get back in the tree stand, and I didn't see any more deer. But that's how it goes.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's fun, but it's fun. And those are stories and memories, and you're never going to forget that stuff. And mistakes do stand. They stub the toe in your mind. Like they will not. You will not make that mistake again if you can help it. And if you do, then it's like, boy, oh boy, you didn't learn, did you? It probably had to happen a second time.
Well, and there's so many things. Like if you look at just like your deer hunting setup, like if you look at the way things are set up on your body and your bag, people will be like, "Why do you keep that there?" And I'm like, well, because one time I messed up and I couldn't reach my grunt tube, and so that's where I have it now. Or I always keep my finger tab. Like if I'm shooting my recurve, I always keep my finger tab in the top like flap of my bino harness. And like, why do you keep that there? And I'm like, well, because it's been in my pocket before when a deer comes in, and I got to fumble to get it out of my pocket and put it on. So now I just keep it right there so I can slide my hand in, slide it off, and shoot. And so there's just like little things about your setups where people are like, why do you do things that way? And I'm like, well,
it takes you a minute to get into the groove too. Like the season starts and you got to like reacclimate and kind of relearn your setup and get comfortable again. It's not like you're doing this every day. You're doing it once a season. So at that rate, your systems might change or evolve, or you got a new this or new that. Like I got a new bear bow, this season that I just got all set up. So there's going to be some learnings with that. Like it's a little bit different than my other bear bow that I had. It's a little less forgiving, so I need to practice more. Like there's just things that will change and evolve. Or I'm going to get a new platform. That one's going to be different than the one I currently have for my saddle setup. Like I'm going to have to learn how that one goes together. It's just, subtle changes, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does create space for mistakes to take place.
What bow did you go with?
So I was looking at all of them. I was considering the flagship, and I was at ATA and I shot all of them. AJ Kazmierzak, I'm saying his last name probably wrong.
Yeah. Right.
He kind of helped me. Yeah, he kind of helped me through shooting all the different options. I really was drawn to the one that the Hunting Public guys are using. I'm spacing on the name. I apologize. The Adapt, because what I had before was the Bear Empire. And that bow is a single cam, so super smooth on the drawback, quiet on the release, a bit forgiving. Like I could maybe, I don't know, it wouldn't have to be like super precise, but I'd still shoot pretty well. Airflight wasn't super fast, but I killed both my bucks with it and that doe that I talked about. So that bow definitely got fed. The one I went with, I shot the flagship one. It just felt like too much horsepower for me. I want to be comfortable at full draw. It felt, I wouldn't say intimidating, but I just was like, man, I don't think I need that much bow. Like if I've been successfully shooting this Empire, that's, I don't even know when that bow came out. It was old. I bought it used. So I went kind of in between. I went with the Legend XR. So dual cam,
great bow.
but not maybe as, I felt comfortable with it. I enjoyed it. It felt a little bit like it could be maybe a little bit more lethal than the Adapt potentially. But, the old bow that I had, I just made this analogy the other day. I'm like, it was like driving one of those old trucks where the steering wheel has play in it, like it could wiggle and the truck won't actually do any lane changing, versus getting into like a new sports car. Like if I just jerk the wheel a little bit, the whole car is moving with me in a really tight kind of way. And that's how the new bow feels currently. I think I just need to get a little bit more comfortable, get some reps in on that thing. I'm doing a 3D shoot this Saturday, so that'll be fun to, hopefully I don't lose a bunch of arrows, but
I think the
feeling pretty confident
Legend
with it.
is just a fun bow to shoot. Like it's just like you said, it's more of a chill bow, if you will. I mean, that I don't like that terminology, but it's more of a
the price tag was
relaxed bow.
chill too.
It's fun to shoot. It's enjoyable. And that's actually, I upgraded my wife to that bow for that reason. Almost exactly. I didn't know the terminology to put it in, but I didn't want her to have all of that bow built up like an Execute, but she needed more horsepower. She needed more umph. And so I moved her up to the Legend XR, and she's happy with it. I'm happy with it. It shoots fantastic. It's just a fun bow, man. I have enjoyed every part of the Legend XR.
Yeah, no, I'm so far satisfied with it, and hopefully I get some opportunities to let some arrows fly with it. I shoot the Method arrows, formerly Vector. They went through a rebrand just recently, so they actually came out with their bow press and like got it all set up with me. I made a quick little content clip with that. I think I tagged Bear in it. They reshared it, which is kind of cool to see. But it was fun. My kids were there with me. Like they got to like, help with it a little bit. Yeah, I try to get them involved. Actually, I'm looking at, for Father's Day, my wife was asking what I want, and I want to get both I have 3 kids, but 2 of them are old enough to shoot. They're going to be 6 and going to be 4. And so I'm asking on the Go Wild app, because it's a pretty healthy community there, and they have the ability to ask a question specifically within a certain thread. And I asked the question about like, what's a good youth bow? And the number of comments around Bear youth bows was like pretty prevalent in contrast to anything else. So, I am looking at I forget which one. It's like $35. But I want to get one for my daughter, one for my son. And that's what I want to do for Father's Day, is get them shooting. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think I'll be ordering some bear bows for the kids, which is kind of cool.
I got my kids, I got all my kids youth bows, and I was actually kind of surprised. So I got them the Flash, which is a really cool little bow. It's a recurve with a built-in whisker biscuit kind of in the riser. So it's a really fun, easy bow for them to shoot. And but I was kind of surprised because I got them a Pathfinder, which is a recurve, or I'm sorry, a compound, and then I got them like an Apprentice, which is just a little kid compound. And I really thought my son was going to be more of the Apprentice, just because it's faster, it looks tougher, and cooler. But my kid loves the Flash, that little recurve. He shoots that thing.
Okay.
He'll walk around the backyard for hours just trying to get close enough to a bird to shoot it. And of course, he's only 4. And that bow, I mean, the arrows just kind of fall out the front, but he has a lot of fun, man, with it. And so, yeah, I actually put out a tip not too long ago. Those bows, they look fun, and people are like, oh yeah, I want to get my kids shooting, they'll enjoy it. But, and you being an adult onset hunter, you can probably speak more to this. That muscle group that you use to draw and pull a bow back is something you just don't use like in everyday life. And so I've seen the strongest of guys like have to get used to shooting a bow, because that's just a muscle group you don't use a lot. And so I actually put out a tip that while it's fun and cute and the kids love it and have fun, what you're doing is actually pretty important, because now as they grow, that muscle group will develop with them. And it won't just be like, boom, now I got to start learning how to shoot a bow and build a draw weight, because hopefully, that draw length and that draw weight will just go up as he grows, because, well, he's been shooting his whole life. And so he doesn't have to develop that, later on in life. So, I actually think it's beneficial, not just fun.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's very valid. And, they're the ones that have shown interest. So I'm not certainly trying to force them down that path, but they took an interest. And I'm like, well, let's fan those flames a little bit and get and see if if they want to continue down learning more. Um,
Yeah.
Even just simple things like tying a wiffle ball to a fishing pole and letting them cast. They
Yeah.
really enjoyed just practicing their casts, and it's fun for me to see them enjoy that and get excited when they get it right. And that way, I'm not dealing with hooks at the local pier down at the lake where it's all tangled. Like they might be a little better off now. So it's yeah, I want to get that practice, that muscle memory down, and I just want to like have fun with them. So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to soon as well.
Guys, not knowing the law is not an excuse for breaking the law. And sometimes going through different state agency websites, they're clunky, they're hard to get around, they're hard to understand, they're not laid out well. They're just difficult. And for guys, especially who hunt multiple states, you're bouncing between states, you're going different places. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with season dates, bag limits, laws, rules, regulations. SeasonReport.com is your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about every state you hunt in. You can save the counties that you hunt in inside your portfolio, and then you can look at everything on a calendar view. So I can see when the season's open and close in Oklahoma and Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. I can see when all those season dates are open, when they overlap with rifle season, so I know when I got to throw my orange on. I can see everything on one easy-to-use, easy-to-understand platform, but also every rule, law, regulation, it's right there. I don't have to go through the state clunky agency websites. It's all right there in one place for me to look at. Easy to understand, easy to follow. Guys, this is something that it saves me every year. I check I check it out every year. I look at it before every hunt to make sure something didn't open or close that I didn't know about. Guys, this entire platform is just $10 for the entire year. It's the best $10, in my opinion, that you can spend on hunting and making sure that you're covered as far as the law goes. Guys, use code Hunting 101. That's all caps Hunting 101, and get that entire platform for just $10 for the entire year. I would highly, highly encourage it. Again, it's the best $10 that I believe you can spend in a season. Now, who is your favorite? Who's been the one person that's kind of shocked you as far as, quote unquote famous professional hunters? And then they kind of shock you with their okayest mindset.
I don't know. I think, everyone's been pretty humble and open to this mantra that we put out. Like I've talked to Aaron Snyder. He shared some of his okayest moments with us. That's on our YouTube channel. He talked about getting lost in the woods and feeling so ashamed about it that he like sprinted through the woods in one random direction, thinking if he just headed that direction, he'd eventually hit some houses, and he eventually did. And then he ran all the way back once he figured out where he was to his buddies on the trailhead. And they're like, why are you all sweaty? Like, what happened? And he didn't want to admit that he got lost. So like, sharing that moment, it's like, you would expect someone like him who hunts, almost year round, hunts several species. He's just as happy to stack.
That was like whitetails in like Wisconsin, like some like
it wasn't anything
in Alaska and all these places, and then a cornfield in Nebraska gets him.
Yeah, it was like that. Andre DeQuisto shared some moments. A lot of these guys talk about getting lost. That's like their thing, and he was happy to, he's like wearing our shirt. He like, I love the brand. This is hilarious. I totally get it. I've made all these mistakes, and sharing that. I really enjoyed talking to Michael Waddell on the show a couple of years ago. He's a pretty humbling guy to talk to. He's got a great disposition. And then recently I chatted with Tony Peterson, and him and I felt like we just jived. Like he really, really embodied the Stoic philosophy stuff that whether he's Stoic or not, I don't necessarily know, but certainly like trying to take ego out of things was really a pleasant conversation. So that was just pretty cool to jive with someone like that and align around a topic really, really strong. But he's also like, he's a stone cold killer. That guy puts down, mature deer. He knows what he's doing. So to be able to do that and then also not be an a-hole about it, I think is important. I think hunting can have a lot of ego because you feel so accomplished when you do something that you feel like I did that. That was me. Like I'm of worth now because of that. So it's hard to I equate it to sweeping the floor in your house. Like, just because you swept it today doesn't mean it's done. Like, you're gonna have to do it again tomorrow because the kids are gonna spill cereal, the dogs are gonna eat food, crumbs are gonna get placed. You have to sweep it every day. So it's something that I have to work on all the time. It's not just something that you fix. It's like it takes constant work to keep that stuff at bay. So I always try to put that out there. So anytime I come across something like that, I really appreciate, that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Doug Dern's a good dude too. We got to go to his farmhouse, in Wisconsin, and we'd recorded there, and just being in that space that you've seen on like Meat Eater felt just really cool. He was really, a great host. He poured us some bourbon, and he told really great stories of his youth and his dad and his upbringing and hunting and what he believes in conservation. And so just learning from people and getting different perspectives and keeping an open mind, all in all, like, who's my favorite? Who shocked me the most? I learned something from everybody,
Well, and I think it's those guys, like you said, that shoot giant deer but are still not necessarily down to earth, but still have that mentality of, hey, it's okay. Like, it's your tag, you shoot what makes you happy. I think those guys are the ones that you learn the most from. Like, those are the most inspirational.
Yeah, those are the guys that are teaching. Like, it's the guys that are putting down huge mature bucks and doing it successfully, and they're working hard to do it. There's this abundant mindset where there's plenty of land, there's plenty of deer. You shooting a small deer isn't going to impact my ability to shoot a big one. And a lot of times people say, like, you shot that deer, there's less big deer for me. It seems to be a very selfish statement. Like, well, why do you get to be selfish? Like, you're calling me selfish for shooting a little deer, but you are also selfish because you only want me to not shoot it so you can have an opportunity at a big one. But anybody that's actually killing big deer, they don't care what you shoot.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to affect them. They're going to continue to do what they do. So it almost seems like it comes from people that maybe have some insecurity or feel threatened, or maybe aren't killing big deer. Like,
or they're just
I don't really know.
I don't real sportsmen. Like, they're not.
Yeah.
Dude, my dad told me one time, and it almost shocked me to my core, because I wasn't that old, and somebody shot a deer that I was hunting, and I was mad. Like, I was upset. And my dad looked at me and he said, dude, let me tell you something. If you're ever not happy for another hunter for killing a deer, you're not a real sportsman. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, you're right, Dad. And so there's been times in my life where I'm like, a deer I was hunting like for 2.5 years, I was hunting a deer that was probably 180, 185. And he was always on my property, but he was also always on the neighboring property. And this property that I hunt is the southern border of my property is Oklahoma. Well, they get a week before me for rifle season. So literally I'm sitting, here bow hunting, and 500 yards, they're already rifle hunting in Oklahoma. And I hear a rifle shot, and I'm like, oh, they got one. And sure enough, it was that deer that I've been hunting for like 2.5 years. And I'll be honest, dude, for a minute I had to fight, like, and it wasn't anger, like, it wasn't disappointment. It wasn't like, screw you for shooting my deer. I mean, it was like oh, he's gone.
It's just deflating. That's all. Like, the wind comes out of your sail. But it cocomes back when you feel happy for someone else. It's interesting.
And that's what I can honestly say that I was happy for that person, because I got to know him. Like, it wasn't like don't shoot my deer. It was like hey buddy, good luck this morning. I know we're hunting the same deer, but good luck. And so I truly, I felt happy for them that they got to shoot it. And I will say this: why on earth would you be upset that your deer? I don't want to say upset, because again, I understand the trouble of it, but at least I know that deer didn't just get hit by a car and was laying on the side of the road.
Yeah, you have closure. Like like, and it went. Like, I don't know. There was a story someone shared where that had happened. There's like 3 neighbors, they're all competing over the same large deer. And they were mad that someone else got it, but it turned out the guy that got it died the next year of like cancer or something. So it was like, man, what if that person that got the deer is going to die the next year? Like, they deserve that, to some degree. Like, how critical for them to have that memory before they pass. So there's just, I don't know. I think that's what your dad said is great. Well, I do only have like 10 minutes left. It's a heads up.
I just want to encourage the listener. Like, if you can't be happy for another hunter who shot a deer, whether it's a fork and horn or the big deer that you've been hunting, if you can't be happy that another hunter found success, you need to do some inner searching. Like, you need to figure out, why am I doing this? Why am I?
Yeah, that's on you. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's your problem, and you need to work on it.
There's this old movie, Green Street Hooligans, that I loved when I was like a young 20-something. And I think, like, I forget the main actor. He's the dude from like the Lord of the Rings. Like, you wouldn't expect him to be like this street brawler in this movie. And there's like this scene where the cool dude in the movie has his best buddy. He's like, he's got a problem with me. He's like trying to pick a fight. And he goes, mate, if you got a problem with me, it's your problem. Like, if you have a problem that someone else did something, that is your problem, not theirs. Like, that's on you. Go look in the mirror. Take care of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your number one okayest moment?
Oh God, there's too many. There's too many. I mean, last season took the cake with missing that deer. But when I first got into bow hunting, my first experience ever bow hunting, I had 2 bucks walking together down a path in the Nicolet National Forest, or like September. I got in the stand. I was not ready. I assumed it was a person walking down this trail. Like, I didn't think it would have been deer. And I grabbed my bow upside down. I didn't have a D loop, so by the time I got it turned right side up, I went to pull back, and it was above the rubber stopper, so it zipped up the bowstring. So by the time I finally drew back on this thing, they were out of range. I couldn't let anything fly. Consciously, there's no ethical shot to be taken. I also dropped something down my stand in the midst of all that, so it was just a total crapshoot. And that was my first ever shot at anything, and my first ever bow hunt, and I blew it completely. Like, it was just a total mess.
Yeah. So I ask every one of my guests, what's a hunting 101 field note, tech tip you got for us? Just something that the listener can take and make themselves a better hunter with.
Man, there's a number of things. Like, I tend to go more philosophical than tactical, but I say something broad like stay curious. And for me, what that means is, like, I would always, from a scouting perspective, I always want to go over that next ridge, that next river bend, that next, tree line, the next island, that next, like, keep going, because you're going to illuminate more intel and you're going to teach yourself more stuff. Like, don't just stop. Like, oh, this looks good, I'm going to hunt here. Yeah, keep going. And I don't mean it in like some like macho badass way. I mean, like, just stay curious and keep plunking along, and you'll keep learning. And that's true on that particular hunt, that particular scout, or like your hunting journey as a whole. Just stay curious, continue to learn.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, I like that, because, there's been times where I'm like, this is where I want to hunt. Like, this is it. But I want to keep looking around. Like, say it's August and I'm like, all right, this is where I'm going to hang my set. But I just want to keep looking around. And it's cool because, like, you'll find stuff and you'll be like, a shed or whatever. And you're like, man, I'm really glad I didn't stop. Like, although I know that's where I'm still hunting, like, it was really cool when I came over here and I didn't know there was a bluff over here. Or, one time, perfect example, me and my dad bought a piece of new ground and we're like, this is where we're hunting 100%. Let's set up. So we even set a stand right there, but we're like, well, let's go look around and make sure there's nothing else we need to, know about. And we find a massive waterfall, like, beautiful. And we're like, we're really glad we didn't stop, We know where we're hunting, like, but just the adventure is what it's about, So great tip, man. I like that for sure. Where can they find the Okayest Hunter at?
Yeah, it's super simple. Just okayesthunter.com, OKAYEST hunter.com, and that's the hub. And from there, you can go wherever, find the podcast, go to the social channels, check out the blog. We have an event coming up in August called Foam Fest that Bear donated a couple of bows to us for, some of the 2 legits ready to hunt. So we gave away 2 of those last year, and it worked out really well. So we're giving away 2 again this year. I'm excited about that. We actually gave 1 away to the lowest score on the archery course because we figured they needed the bow the most. So that was like a really fun thing to do. But yeah, no, go to okayesthunter.com and feel free to poke around.
Guys, I know. Cheap, interchangeable blade knives, they're all in the rage. Change your blade right there, and you can keep going. And it's cool. And I have one in my bag, and I like to keep one in my bag. However, there is no replacement for a well-built, hand-forged knife, something that I know is dependable. It's strong. If I pick it up, it's going to be sharp. It's going to be ready to go. These right here are knives built by my good friend Nick Deeker, Nick's Knife Works. And the most beautiful part of this is it's not cut and dry. You don't just pick out a knife and say, well, I guess that's the one I need. No. He built this one specifically to the length that I wanted it. I wanted this to fit right on the side of my binocular harness, so it was always there, always ready for me to grab. He built this one to fit really small in my pocket for an everyday carry. Guys, a good hand-forged knife is worth its weight in gold. Go check out Nick Deeker at nicksknifeworks.com. Yeah, guys, go check them out. They are a cool group of guys, and even if you're a big bad hunter, you will find inspiration because sometimes you get to that point where you're just taking it too serious and you need to laugh. And so you'll find inspiration, you'll find some sort of encouragement. So guys, go check out the Okayest Hunter. Eric, thank you so much for coming on, man. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic week.